Welcome to today's Catholic Daily Readings from Christus Dominus Bread of Life. A reading from the first book of Samuel. When he had been led to Saul, he said to him, "Let no one lose heart over him. I, your servant, shall go and fight against the Philistine." And Saul said to David, "You are not able to withstand this Philistine, nor to fight against him, for you are a boy, but he has been a warrior from his boyhood." And David said, "The Lord who rescued me from the hand of the lion and from the hand of the bear, he himself will free me from the hand of this Philistine." Then Saul said to David, "Go, and may the Lord be with you." And he took up his staff, which he held always in his hands, and he chose for himself 5 very smooth stones from the torrent, and he put them into the shepherd's bag that he had with him, and he took up a sling in his hand, and he went out against the Philistine. And the Philistine, advancing, went and drew near against David, and his armor-bearer was before him. And when the Philistine had seen and considered David, he despised him, for he was a youth, ruddy and of handsome appearance. And the Philistine said to David, "Am I a dog that you approach against me with a staff?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And he said to David, "Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and to the beasts of the earth." But David said to the Philistine, "You approach me with sword and spear and shield, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, which you have reproached. Today the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down, and I will take your head from you. And today I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines to the birds of the air, and to the beasts of the earth, so that all the earth may know that God is with Israel. And this entire assembly will know that the Lord does not save by sword, nor by spear. For this is his war, and he will deliver you into our hands." Then when the Philistine had risen up and was approaching, and was drawing near against David, David hurried and ran to the fight against the Philistine. And he put his hand into his bag and took out 1 stone, and swinging it around, he cast it with the sling and struck the Philistine on the forehead. And the stone became embedded in his forehead, and he fell on his face upon the ground. And David prevailed against the Philistine with a sling and a stone, and he struck and killed the Philistine. But since David held no sword in his hand, he ran and stood over the Philistine, and he took his sword and withdrew it from the sheath, and he killed him and cut off his head. Then the Philistines, seeing that their strongest man was dead, fled away.
Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for battle, my fingers for war. When fear surrounds you, do not move. You make the trembling steady, you make the weak endure. Not by armor on my skin, not by blades the world can see. You are the fortress under breath, the shield that covers me. Blessed be the Lord my rock, my refuge and my fortress, my stronghold, my deliverer, my shield in whom I trust. Blessed be the Lord my rock, you steady me in shadow, you raise me in the valley, you fight for those who bow. I walked with stones, not iron, I carried faith, not pride. The giant spoke with thunder, but heaven stood at my side. You shaped my aim in secret, you taught my hands in fields, and what the enemy called weakness became the weapon that it yields. Let them laugh, let them accuse, let them measure what I lack. You do not need their kind of strength to break an army's back. With a 10-string lyre I chant your praise. You give victory to kings. You deliver your servant from the evil sword. You see the child, the hidden one, and you make his courage blaze. Unarmed and unafraid, not because I cannot bleed, but because you are my rock, and you answer when I need. When the holy fight is costly and the faithful stand alone, you do not leave your servants. You enthrone yourself as throne. Blessed be the Lord, my rock, my refuge and my fortress, my stronghold, my deliverer, my shield in whom I trust. Blessed be the Lord, my rock. You give victory to kings. You deliver your servant, and your name outlasts the dust. Blessed be the Lord, my rock. Blessed be the Lord, my rock.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. And again he entered into the synagogue, and there was a man there who had a withered hand, and they observed him to see if he would cure on the Sabbath, so that they might accuse him. And he said to the man who had the withered hand, "Stand up in the middle." And he said to them, "Is it lawful to do good on the Sabbaths, or to do evil, to give health to a life, or to destroy?" But they remained silent, and looking around at them with anger, being very saddened over the blindness of their hearts, he said to the man, "Extend your hand." And he extended it, and his hand was restored to him. Then the Pharisees, going out, immediately took counsel with the Herodians against him, as to how they might destroy him. Join us for today's reflection. She was 12 years old, maybe 13. Agnes of Rome stood before the prefect who had just threatened her with torture and death if she refused to renounce Christ. The men who wanted to marry her had grown furious when she rejected them, declaring that she already had a spouse, one far more noble than any Roman aristocrat. They denounced her as a Christian to the authorities, expecting that fear would break what flattery could not. They miscalculated badly. When the prefect ordered her dragged to a brothel to have her virginity violated, Agnes reportedly said that Christ would not allow his bride to be dishonored. When that failed and she was sentenced to death, she walked to her execution with more composure than the soldiers assigned to kill her. The executioner offered her one final chance to save her life by denying Christ. She refused, prayed briefly, and submitted to the blade. 12 years old, unarmed, unafraid. Today we remember Saint Agnes, and the readings the Church pairs with her memorial could not be more perfect, because Agnes did exactly what David did when he faced Goliath. She showed up without the armor everyone expected, trusted in a power the world could not see, and defeated an enemy that seemed invincible. David's brothers thought he was ridiculous. King Saul thought he was suicidal. The giant Goliath thought he was insulting. Here comes a boy with no armor, no sword, no military training, carrying a shepherd's staff and a bag of rocks. Goliath does not know whether to laugh or be offended. Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks? David's response reveals what was actually happening in that valley. You come to me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This was never about David's skill with a sling, though he had plenty of it. This was about whose power was actually at work. David had learned in the fields, defending his sheep from lions and bears, that the God who delivered him then would deliver him now. He was not walking into the valley unarmed. He was walking in with the only weapon that mattered. 5 smooth stones. One found its mark. The giant fell face first into the dirt, and David ran forward to cut off his head with the giant's own sword. The Philistines fled. Israel pursued. The victory was so complete, so unexpected, so obviously supernatural that it has echoed through 3,000 years of history. Whenever someone faces impossible odds with nothing but faith in God, we call it a David and Goliath moment. Agnes had her David and Goliath moment in a Roman courtroom. The empire that had conquered the known world, with all its swords and soldiers and instruments of torture, could not make a 12-year-old girl deny her Lord. She came at them without weapons they recognized, and they could not touch what actually made her strong. The psalm today gives voice to what both David and Agnes knew. Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for battle, my fingers for war. My mercy and my fortress, my stronghold, my deliverer, my shield, in whom I trust. Notice the layering of images: rock, fortress, stronghold, deliverer, shield. God is not just one form of protection, He is every form of protection, and this is the God who trains hands for battle. David's hands learned to use a sling while watching sheep. Agnes's hands learned to fold in prayer while the world tried to seduce her with wealth and status. Both sets of hands were trained by God for the moment when everything would depend on them. The gospel takes this theme in a direction that should make us uncomfortable. Jesus enters a synagogue on the Sabbath and finds a man with a withered hand. The Pharisees are watching him, not to see a miracle, but to catch him in a violation. They do not care about the man with the useless hand. They care about building a case against Jesus. Jesus knows exactly what they are thinking. He calls the man forward, putting him in the center of the room where everyone can see. Then he asks a question that exposes the Pharisees' hearts. Is it lawful on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill? Silence. They refuse to answer because any honest answer would condemn them. They are plotting to kill Jesus while accusing him of Sabbath violation. They are doing evil while pretending to protect the good. Jesus looks around at them with anger, grieved at their hardness of heart. This is one of the few places in the Gospels where we are explicitly told that Jesus was angry, not annoyed, not frustrated, angry and grieved. The combination reveals a heart that burns with righteous fury at injustice while simultaneously breaking over the people committing it. He is angry at what they are doing and sorrowful about what they are becoming. Stretch out your hand. The man obeys. His hand is restored, and the Pharisees immediately go out to plot with the Herodians, political enemies they normally despised, to find a way to destroy Jesus. Here is the connection that ties all of today's readings together. In each case, someone stands in the gap between power and powerlessness, armed with nothing but God. David stood between Goliath and a terrified Israelite army. Agnes stood between Roman imperial might and her own small body. Jesus stood between religious corruption and a man with a withered hand. None of them had the weapons that worldly wisdom would demand. All of them won. But notice something else. David's victory led to more battles. Agnes's death did not end persecution. Jesus' healing led directly to a murder plot. The victory of faith is not the elimination of opposition. It is the demonstration that opposition cannot ultimately win. This is why Agnes matters. She was not rescued from martyrdom. She walked into it. And by walking into it with the same calm courage David showed walking toward Goliath, she proved that Rome had no power over her. The empire could kill her body, but it could not touch her soul. She won by losing in the world's terms. We celebrate Agnes today not because her story had a happy ending by earthly standards, but because her story reveals what victory actually looks like in the kingdom of God. The lamb who goes silently to slaughter. The boy who brings stones to a sword fight. The healer who knows his compassion will get him killed and heals anyway. What giant stands before you today? What overwhelming force has convinced you that resistance is futile? What reasonable voice is telling you to put on armor that does not fit, to fight on terms you were never meant to accept? Pick up your stones. Stretch out your withered hand. Walk toward the arena with the same peace Agnes carried. The Lord is your rock, your fortress, your stronghold, your deliverer, your shield. He has trained your hands for this battle, and the giant is already falling.